We were thrilled when they showed an interest in speaking, because if you have any of their products, you know that they're leaning very forward in this space. And very proud to bring up Newman. He is the Director of Applied AI Research at Comcast. And Jeanine Heck is the Vice President for Comcast AI Products. Jan and Jeanine, come on up. Let's give them a big round of applause. Take it away.
Thank you,
Thank
Peter.
you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanine. Like Peter mentioned, I lead our AI product team. And today we're going to talk about voice at Comcast and how we have evolved the voice experience and how it's become a central part of the customer's experience with our products. So just to level set, in case you don't know who we are, Comcast is traditionally, it was known as a cable company, and we really have transformed the company over the past 10 to 15 years into a media and technology company. So we have a large portfolio of content. A big portion of that came with an acquisition of NBC Universal. And we also are distributing content through a subscription, a monthly subscription that our customers have with us. And they get this amazing TV platform that we call X1. And X1 really is the best-in-class product for experiencing TV. This is the voice remote. The voice remote comes with X1. It's part of the offering. And the great thing about the voice remote is that there is a microphone right on the remote. You tap it, and you can find what you want quickly. You can ask to change channels. You can ask to find a title. You can ask, what should I watch? And many, many other features. This remote is truly a game changer for the company, for our customers, and for the industry, really. So we're really proud of it. A few other reasons we're proud. We won an Emmy. So recently we were awarded an Emmy for building this voice navigation experience. We have more than 20 million remotes in customers' homes. And last year, in 2017, we had more than 6 billion voice commands on the voice remote. This last number is the most exciting one on this slide, because to us, our users telling us that they love the product through using it is really the most exciting thing. So I'll tell you a little bit about how voice evolved at Comcast. And to start that, I want to introduce this concept called the virtuous circle of AI. And the idea is that you create a great product attracts a lot of users. Users using the product generates data, and you as the product person or the software engineering team take that data and you learn from it and you make the product better, and then you get more users that generate more data with your product, and the circle continues. This concept was kind of an aha when I saw it, because it really illustrated a great framework for how we built the voice remote. And if you want to learn more about it, there's a great talk by Andrew Ng on YouTube. And so more specifically, just to give you a little bit of background of how we got here, you would really have to go back to the year 2010 to really understand the background of how we built the voice remote. So in 2010, we launched our first search engine on TV that integrated all of our content together into one search engine. And this was the first time that you had one place where you could find all of your content, and you had a very simple interface, a search box where you could enter letters. And that was the first time that we really started working with the notion of relevance. And so we began to tune our algorithm based on what users were searching for and what their needs were. In 2012, we started working on voice. We thought about the impact Siri had made. It was certainly the first time that we really saw mass adoption of voice, and we thought voice could be a great way to control your TV. So we started experimenting. We pivoted a few times in 2012. We had an internal app that we gave out to our employees, and we started to test. And and like I said, generate some data and learn from it. And by January of 2013, we launched an app in the App Store on iOS and soon after Android. And in that app, you could control your TV by tapping a microphone and asking for what you wanted. And this app, by Comcast standards, it did not get a ton of users. We didn't have the 20 million like we do with the remote, but we did get about 1 million commands per month through this app. And those commands helped us train our algorithms so that we were ready when we launched an actual remote. So all along, we knew that an app was not really the end game. We wanted a button on the remote control. And so in 2015, we launched the industry's first voice-controlled remote. And like I said, you tap the button, you ask for what you want. Our tagline when we advertise it is, say it and see it, because you just can name anything that you want and it appears. And what was so exciting at this time was that we heard from our customers how accurate the voice engine was. They couldn't believe that everything they said would come back. And we heard it again and again, and our users would actually say to us, it's perfect every time. And we, measuring our accuracy, we knew it wasn't perfect 100% of the time, but it was quite impressive, the accuracy that we were able to achieve, because we had such an iterative process of improving the algorithm over the years. And here we are in 2018. We have a new form factor for our remote. It has a bigger voice button. The other buttons are kind of less necessary, so we've pared it down. And the voice experience is still really key to X1, and it's the reason why people love X1 and our platform so much. And like I mentioned, we use this iterative, virtuous circle of AI throughout the process to make the algorithm better each step of the way, and we continue to do so. And Jan will talk about how we've used that process to build voice experiences across our entire portfolio of Xfinity products. So what kind of things can you say into the voice remote? We started with core voice commands like changing channels, finding shows, saying a channel number, some of the basic things that are just kind of everyday behaviors. But what was really interesting is that we kind of brought with us a bias that we had because we had been managing our on-demand, basically, store on X1, and we had been driving movie purchases and things like that. And we had it in our heads that everybody is just going to want to find on-demand programs through the voice remote. And what really surprised us was the volume of just channel changes. People just loved that this remote could solve that problem for them. They don't have to remember that CNN is channel 817. They don't have to remember what channel ESPN is. And so solving that problem for our customers was really core, and we made a big focus right in the beginning to get that right and to make sure we had high accuracy on the core things. We've added features that are unique to X1. So our platform has some special sauce in there that really allows you to do more than what you typically expect from a TV experience. So when you say Phillies, you can go to the sports team, the baseball team, and see all the games where they're playing. And so we made sure to add in all of those commands and integrate it well with the platform itself. One of the cool things that we realized pretty early on with voice is that it allows you to flatten the user interface. And what I mean by that is, traditionally whenever we thought of a new feature that we wanted to have on a guide, we had to go build a screen, and sometimes you had to build a whole menu hierarchy. And so if we wanted to put something out there like movies about basketball, we would have had to build a menu for every topic out there, not just basketball. And that was something that would have taken us a lot of time. We were able to offer that feature with voice, and it takes you directly to a list of movies about basketball. And so we were really excited about the things that we could do where we went beyond the guide, and we were adding new features that were voice-only features or voice-first features. We've even done some really fun things like you could talk to minions. You could say banana, and the minions would say banana back to you. And so we created some really cool experiences where you could interact with a brand and have a conversation. And lastly, we have been spending more and more time recently going beyond the TV in the commands that we offer. So we offer a way to control all of your Xfinity products, and if you have questions about your bill or questions about your Wi-Fi password, we can help you right there on the TV with more commands than the TV-centric ones, with things that really touch all of our Xfinity products. So I'm going to wrap up here with this framework that I kind of put together that I think illustrates the evolution of voice products and kind of where we are today. So this is going to be a two-way matrix, or sorry, a 2x2 matrix. The x-axis here is how advanced the user experience is. So a basic voice experience, you could just call it a voice search. It takes text and maybe it runs a search. Then you get to more evolved NLP, where you're really understanding the intent of the user. And eventually, what we're all aiming for is to have a human-like conversation with our devices and with our products. And the y-axis here would be the utility. So a low utility product being one that you may not use that frequently, all the way up to a high utility one. I think the North Star, of course, is going to be up in that upper right quadrant, and we're all aiming to build something that's really useful, really high utility, and also feels like a human conversation. But I have to say, I don't think we're really there yet. I don't think that any product is there yet. I wouldn't put anybody in the top right quadrant just yet. And I think what happens with some products is that you have this kind of novelty where it's really cool because you feel like you're talking to the future. You have the future in your house and you get to interact with it, and it feels sort of like a human conversation. But I think what's happened with some of the products is that we go really far in making them have this great human-like interaction, but they're not quite as useful. And so, I would actually put, and maybe this is a little controversial, I would put smart speakers and smartphones in this category, because I think that when it comes down to it, the product itself is really useful, and the voice interaction it comes with it and is not that useful yet. I think we'll get there. And then I would say this upper left quadrant is the habit-forming one. And they say that a good habit takes about 66 times on average to be formed. So you have to use a product at least 66 times to start for it to become a habit. And I think with voice remote, you will absolutely use it 66 times very quickly. And we see that with our usage. And so I would put our voice remote up in this category, and that is where we stand, really. We've got a pretty sophisticated intent understanding, but we're not quite there where we have the two-way conversation. And that was a trade-off that we made intentionally. We decided to go high utility, do the things that our users really needed us to do to make sure that we created the habits that the user needs this product, they're loyal, they're excited about it, and they're attached. And so for us, this is kind of where we are right now. We have a lot of development that is also kind of probably in the bottom right, and I think I'd like to see all of us start to get to the top right of this matrix. But I think one good way to get there is actually through the top left, not necessarily through the bottom right. And I think I would like to see more companies emphasizing the utility of the product and getting to our North Star by really doubling down on high utility and usage where we hear from the customers what they need from the product. So with that, I'll pass it on to Jan, who's going to talk a bit about our broader array of Xfinity products that use voice.
Thank you so much. So my name is Jan Neumann, and I lead the Comcast Applied AI Research team. So what I would like to do now is to kind of take you a little bit behind the curtain and look at how do we actually make these voice capabilities possible for the Comcast voice remote. Right, so voice control is really at the center of, as Jeanine described, of all of our efforts for customers to interact with our systems. Right? with the goal really to communicate, allowing you to communicate on your terms, right? Our interfaces should not determine how you interact with our devices and services. It really should be the other way around. And so, starting with voice control, one of the important things is that to enable kind of questions and natural interactions via voice, you need to have knowledge about the devices and kind of the environment which you want to interact with. So one part of my team, for example, therefore, is spending a lot of time to analyze all the media that we are distributing in Comcast, be it linear TV or video on demand. We want to understand like who's on screen, what are they talking about, what are the topics, so that you can then ask for these things later on. Similarly, content discovery, we need to understand kind of what have you watched in the past so that we can show you the most relevant information, so that we understand you as a unique customer and can relate to, like if you ask about specific things or refer to things that you have done in the past, that we understand that and then can use that in the answers that we give you. Similar in the digital home, in the smart home, we want to understand your environment. What kind of sensors do you have? Do you have a smart thermostat? Right? If you say turn up the heat, what are you referring to? Are you referring to a movie? I mean, like kind of you want to see a movie on TV, or do you want to make it more pleasurable in your home? And kind of doing that at a level that you semantically interact with, right? I mean, one of the things that we've recently worked on is for security solution. Traditionally, if you have a smart camera and you use the app, all you kind of get returned is a list of video clips of things that it found interesting, usually where some motion is happening. What we're trying to do is really look at this at the higher semantic level, where you can ask questions. When did my kids come home? When was the package delivered? Right? I mean, those are the interactions that kind of make sense, and we want to enable them. And finally, we're working on also including voice in our interactions with customer service. We all dread the phone call to an agent if something is broken and you kind of use like the telephone system. Don't we all wish like choose one, choose two, choose three? Let me just tell you what I want to do and then take care of the rest, right? In a way, you shouldn't even have to explain to us what the problem is. We should just understand it and say, oh yeah, you have a problem. We think it might be this. Let's try to fix it like that without even having to escalate to an agent. So for the remaining time, I want to kind of look at some of the examples and even talk about the actual implementation of this. But first, to show you the importance of semantic search for content discovery. Traditionally, when you were searching for an item on TV, the only way what you could refer to were the exact titles of movies and episodes. Who here knows like the episode title of all your favorite episodes? Like I don't, right? Similarly, like when you wanted to search for something that you care about, it had to be annotated by an external party or an internal editor and associated with that movie to make it visible. But we really don't want to limit the vocabulary that you're using, right? Instead, we want to allow you to ask about places, people, anybody who's on your mind, or just describe the episode, what happens there. And then we should be able to return that to you. So here's an example. If we ask in the voice format nowadays, show me movies about Scotland, right? Anything from like Scotland appearing in the title, to movies playing in Scotland, to even something like Scooby-Doo with the Loch Ness Monster, which has a relatively distant relationship to Scotland, but it will come up if that is kind of what's relevant for you and it's related to your search. Similarly, like abstract concepts like hiking. So wild is probably a very good fit for that concept, but nobody annotated like that movie with hiking or Stand By Me with hiking. What we did is that we actually looked at the title, the synopsis, reviews, understood kind of what the concepts were that described the movie, and then allow you to and then relate that to your query in real time and bring up these results. One thing where this was really powerful was right after, unfortunately, Stephen Hawking died this year. So a lot of our customers asked for, show me movies about Stephen Hawking. And he is not an actor, he is not an entity in our catalog, so there were no movies tagged with him. But with this kind of more semantically oriented search system, we were able to return results and thereby answer the desired intent of our customers. And finally, like for episodes, right? So if you show me the episode where in Seinfeld where George became a marine biologist, that's the kind of level how we want to describe episodes and bring up the corresponding results. To kind of figure out what our customers want from us and want our system to do, Jeanine mentioned we're getting like more than 6 billion queries a year, right? So nobody can annotate those manually, go through and say, hey, what did the customer actually want? So one thing we do is to automatically label a lot of our data. So if you hear, what you see here is a voice session where a customer basically said, kids, it's baking championship, and then kids baking championship. So likely they were referring to kids baking championship, but how do we know, and how do we do that automatically? So one way is to actually align it with the watch logs of looking at what did the customer actually tune to or stayed watching. And so we see here that they actually watched Kids Baking Champions, the show, for quite some time. And so then this allows us to use that as a label for the voice sessions and thereby automatically kind of learn additional intents without even manual input. And so we learn from what our customers are expressing their interests are, and thereby train our system and make it smarter over time. Some other examples, right? If people said it's always sunny, we learned that it's always sunny in Philadelphia. Ragnarok sounds like a great song, but they actually refer to the Thor movie, right? An iHeart Music Award, like you don't have to use all the terms that are the official title, but just use the words as that you kind of have meaning to you, right? And I already kind of made that point, but like 1,000 hours of speech, nobody can listen through that to edit it. So who here is familiar with deep learning? So like most of the voice and NLP technologies nowadays, we use deep learning to learn from these inputs, right? So give another example here, game of throne, right? That's like the different words that people try to say to get to Game of Thrones, which is the program they watched later on. So what we do here to learn from that, to kind of go into detail, like each of these words need to be converted into a fixed size vector. So we're using LSTMs, which is one of the deep learning models that shows, like it's kind of like the standard model for deep learning approaches. And so you basically take a word and it will come out with a vector. Similarly, you can take a sequence of these vectors now to concatenate them into a single vector. And then if I take a show like Game of Thrones, I can also create a vector of that and compare the two. How similar are they? And adjust the parameters of my model such that I try to get a very high score for the correct program, which is Game of Thrones, and a low program for like the game. It sounds similar, but it's really not what the customer wanted, so I actually want to push it away, right? And so what I'm optimizing is really the difference between the two, and then get a program loss expression which I can use in my system. So this is good if our customers would only ask for one thing, which is directly for programs. But because there's actually more, we have to add additional parameters, which we then also put into our model. So for example, if I ask you, show me free comedy movies, right? So first I have to identify that the intent is not a search for a specific program called like free movies, free comedy movies, but that you want to browse the menu of free comedy movies, right? So I have to, we also have a model that it extracts the intent. Similarly, we have a model that extracts comedy as the genre of that query, as well as another model that would extract the component of cost, putting it all together to finally understand your complete intent. And then we can go a step further. So now this is kind of a one-step interaction. Ideally, like how we as humans communicate with each other is via dialogue. If I don't get exactly what I want the first time, or if like we don't understand if I don't understand what you're asking me, I'll kind of ask for clarification, right? So we want to do dialogue. So kind of taking this to the next level, what I showed you was basically the step of where we go from the natural language input with the domain models to the customer intent. Then there's like still so much more information that we have from our applications, devices, et cetera, previous behaviors from our customers that kind of provide context for the best action that our system should return or the best answer like in the voice context. right? And so in this case, it could be a display notification, something showing you something on screen. It could be initiating a dialogue to ask for confirmation or disambiguation, or some interaction with our system, right? And so now you would go back to the customer either with the conversational action or with the system. But a big point here is that all this is actually has to be repeated in a feedback loop, right? So this happens over and over, and your system needs to understand, and we had seen it in talks before, where it's important that you refer to items so you can use pronouns like it, and then don't repeat everything that you had said before. Like one example where we applied this now to was customer service. Like I mentioned, we all dread the call to the agent. And so we are currently implementing this where our system will understand automatically what the kind of best action is with regard to certain customer happiness metrics, right? And it could be that we notice there's a problem and just notify you. We notice that we can actually send a self-healing action, so we'll take care of the problem without you having to do anything, or you might ideally not even noticing there was a problem in the first place. Or if it's a complicated problem, then we escalate you to an agent, but still handle the majority of the cases without you having to have that human interaction. And so this is implemented now in the kind of Xfinity Assistant. So if you're a Comcast customer and you have the account app, there's now a search button on the top right where you can then input any question, any description of your problem. We apply our voice technology, or in this case, natural language processing technology to that, understand what your problem is, and offer a number of mitigation suggestions. And soon this will have like complete dialogue where we can go back and forth until your problem is resolved. So if you would like to learn more about the work that we're doing, you can find like research papers and like in-depth description of this work on our website. And we want to thank you for your attention. And also, if this sounds interesting to you, we're always looking for help. So thank you so much.
Sure.